Good day and welcome to the Meticulous Moments podcast, where we facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. And today we have another strong man with us here in the green room at the Meticulous Moments podcast, and he's none other than Don Cummings. I'm going to read his bio before we bring him onto screen. Don Cummings is an old-time strongman. He specializes in bending steel bars, nails, bolts, wrenches, and horseshoes with his hands and body. Don has broken 20 world records in steel bending. In 2021, Don bent the most nails ever, 831 nails, to raise money to help beat the nasty disease ALS. He did another ALS fundraiser in 2022 and set a world record by bending 375 spikes. On July 22nd, 2023, Don has a third Nails and Ales for ALS event. He will be attempting to set a world record by bending the most horseshoes ever. Don also practices wrestling and grappling, and we're going to talk about Jiu Jitsu a little bit. He has rock and ice climbed around the world. Don is married to his wife, Kelly, and has 3 daughters. He's a trial lawyer for his profession. Very, very interesting and amazing guest that we have with us this evening. And with that, we welcome our special guest, Don Cummings. How are you, Don?
Good. How are you, Juanita?
I'm doing so well, thank you. Thank you for making the time to be here with us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we read your bio. I know you. We've had a virtual coffee. We've chatted. But for the audience members who, maybe are not acquainted with you yet, what is it that you want to share with them today?
Well, I live in Michigan in the United States, and I'm married. I'm a family guy. My wife, Kelly, I've got three little girls, very bright, smart, courageous little girls. And like you said, I'm a trial lawyer for profession. And then my main hobby and really obsession is bending steel. I'm an old-time strongman, which means that I, tear cards, roll up frying pans, bend steel bars, and things like that. But the bending of steel bars and steel objects is what I'm really obsessed with, and that's kind of like my main passion.
I love that, and I saw your photos. And I thought to myself, how on earth, because some of them are like little swirlies. You've taken the steel and you've just bent them like little swirlies. And then I also saw the photo where your hands were bleeding. And I wanted to ask you, at which point in your life when you were young, did you realize that you were that strong?
Strength has always been kind of part of my life. My dad was in the Marine Corps, and he was on the powerlifting team in the Marine Corps. So I started lifting weights at a very young age. I think I was in 6th grade, and my whole life I wrestled and played sports. And I grew up in a small, like kind of blue collar farming town. And so I did a lot of manual labor growing up, which I think contributed to my strength background. But I've always been involved in strength in some, fashion. I wrestled in college. I played football. It's always been part of my life. And then eventually I got into hand strength and was training my hands a lot. And when I was doing that, I found the old-time strongman, the guys who used to perform in the early 1900s and the vaudeville acts and stuff. And I saw that and I thought it looked awesome, and I tried it and really became obsessed with it. But I wasn't a natural at it initially. Some guys start off and are really good at it right away, but it took a lot of training and hard work to get where I could do, substantial stuff with it.
Wow. So tell us a little bit more about the training process, because I hear you, you see something that you want to do, you attempt it, you go through that trial and error, what works, what doesn't work. How long is that process? Because I'm sure during the course of that training, you hurt your hands. How long does it take to heal? What was that time frame like for you, that process?
Yeah, you can definitely tear your hands up doing it. And, there's a lot of different components to steel bending that I think really fit me and my personality and attributes I'm good at. Your body strength is a big component of it, but also your mental strength is huge. A lot of the things you're doing, these different wrenches you're bending or big horseshoes and things. I mean, these things are designed not to be bent. They're supposed to lifetime guarantee type stuff. They're not designed to be bent. And so you've got to really learn to harness all of your body power,
Yeah.
where your body has a governor on it. They say you can go to 35-40% before your body wants to shut you down, because you're risking injury, serious injury to your
Yeah.
body if you go beyond that to your full capacity. And so a lot of the steel bending is teaching your mind and your body how to take that governor off and go more towards max power.
Mm.
I don't think anyone's ever going to reach 100% of their ability or power, but we all have in us way more than we think we have. And you just
Yes.
got to learn to take that governor off and push it a little more each time. And steel bending is really a way to learn to take that governor off. And you see it all the time, like with the governor. The stories of a grandmother whose a car fell on the granddaughter or grandson, and they picked the car off to save the life of somebody. And so that just shows you that your body is capable of it, but your mind's shutting it down. And so a lot of the steel
Mm.
bending is just learning to get past what your mind wants to shut down, so you can do these things that all of us
Yes.
are capable of. We just have to learn how to harness ourselves to do it.
That's the truth. I'm a firm believer of that, because I have seen instances where people have done things that are incredible, actually not even possible, just because of an emergency situation. They just did it because that's what the situation required. So I want to ask you, we, especially because you're also a martial artist, in martial arts, we really work with our mental state. We really work with, all three parts of us, body, soul, and spirit, really. And to get all of those working together, all those components of us, what do you do to mentally make yourself strong? How do you strengthen that mental ability to push past that limit that you perceive you have?
Yeah, I think it starts long before the event ever happens. I'm
Yeah.
really big on visualization. So I do spend, like, anytime I have a big feat or a big bend or a big world record I'm trying to break, it long before the event ever happens, I'm visualizing myself doing it. I'm seeing it. I'm feeling it, feeling my body going through it.
Yes.
I'm positively talking to myself, telling myself I can do it and feeling it and just getting myself feeling good and positive. Where when I go into the actual feed, there's no doubt in my head that it's going to happen.
Mm.
And then the physical part of just teaching your body to use more. I think what you're doing, a lot of it is you're just teaching more of your muscles to fire at one time, and using
Yes.
more, strengthening your nerves to get
Mm.
more out of your muscles. And
Mm.
so it's kind of a gradual thing where, say normally when somebody thinks they're going 100% and say they're using 35%,
Yeah.
just steel bending really helps you go past, because the steel bar doesn't move that much. And so it's like
Mm.
you're putting all this force into a rigid object. So it's like an
Yeah.
isometric type force. And so you can really load the force into the bar. And so say,
Mm.
you get to 36%, and then the next time maybe 37. You're learning gradually how to just develop more force and more energy to just throw it and
Mm.
forcefully exert into that bar.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really agree with you, because I believe in energy a lot. I use a lot of principles in my life to utilize energy to my full benefit. And I'm thinking, as you're speaking, everything's made of energy. So you are practically using the energy of your body and your mind to change the energy format, the energy shape of that object. And that takes a lot of practice. How many hours do you practice, for instance, before? Because you're going to an event pretty soon. How many hours a day do you practice? How does that look like? What does that look like? How does that work
Yeah, it depends on what I have coming up, because steel bending is a thing too where you can't do too much of it,
before?
because you can't break your body down.
Yeah.
It's put so much, when you're creating all that energy and force. I mean, your body's got to be able to withstand doing that. And so, you know, in a normal training week, if I have some sort of big feat, I may train bending
Yeah.
twice a week, and the bending
Mm,
workouts are a couple hours. But
yeah.
any more than twice a week, I'll overtrain my
Too
body,
much.
and I'll
Yeah.
start, really beating it up. But I'm just starting to ramp up for my horseshoe bending world record attempt in July, which is done to raise money to beat ALS. And
Wow.
that is an endurance feat, which is a little different than the strength feats. I'm actually most known for endurance feats.
Oh,
And the endurance feats I like in particular because it's just all about not quitting. Like, you can bend the one nail or the one horseshoe,
yeah.
and you just get to the point where it's just a mental battle of making yourself bend one more. Because say like when I broke the nail bending world record, you know, you can only toughen your hands so much before they
That's
start
it.
to fail. And that's like
Yeah.
the one picture in the intro where the blood's
So,
coming down my hands. It's because, I'd bent so many, and at a certain point your hands just start tearing. You may be
yeah.
bleeding, your body's breaking down, and it's just willing yourself just to do one more, and just not quit.
Mm,
I think that's
mm.
probably the best, not talent, but just skill I have that's helped me in my life is just not knowing how to quit and just,
Yeah.
staying at it and just staying in the game and just getting yourself when you're
Yes.
almost dead and you can hardly move and you're sweating and you're bleeding, just to do one more bend
Get
and just
up and do
one
it.
more, one more, one more until you've
Yeah.
added up into this, huge amount that nobody's done before or that's you've never done before.
Yeah.
And so,
Surprising yourself. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
so we're starting to ramp up for that endurance stuff, and a lot of that will be just toughening my hands and getting the body ready for like just
Yeah.
an all-out war with all that stress from so many
These are
moments.
objects. Yeah. Tell me, how do you toughen your hands? What do you have hand exercises that you do, or do they toughen through the bending when you practice twice a week?
Yeah, I mean, I do strengthen my hands. I do different hand training exercises, but most of it is just the skin toughness that the only way
Mm,
to develop it is from bending. And so,
mm,
when I'm going up for like a big endurance feat, I normally try to get up to 50% of what the max is. Uh,
mm.
so like my nail bending world record was bending 831 nails. I would want to bend maybe three or 400 in my last training day. Because
Mm.
one thing I've learned is you only need to absolutely destroy yourself one time. In training, you just want to toughen yourself up, build your
That's it.
endurance up,
Yeah.
just get you. So then on that day, then you can just use your mind and mentally move.
Mm, mm.
You can,
True.
with about 50%, you can get your body there and then just rely on your mind. So
Mm.
I'll normally do, say, if 300 is the most before the last one, maybe I'll do 100 um, a month out, and that'll probably tear my
Mm.
hands apart. Then they heal
Yeah.
for a week and they get good calluses. Then I'll do 200 the next training session. That'll rip them open. Then they heal up and are tougher. Then I do
Yeah.
300. That rips them open. Then they heal up and now their hands are tough.
Now they're ready.
And for the
Yeah.
big day, they're as tough as I can get them. And now it's just about getting it done with the mind.
That's it. I'm thinking about you're talking about endurance, and you do martial arts, of course, as well. And you'll know with Jiu Jitsu, it's a different kind of fitness than doing boxing, for instance. And doing kata for hours, that works a whole different muscle group as well. That's a different kind of fitness. So it's good that you do different things in the process of preparing, because you are then set to go in all these areas. And, as you explain how you bend, you get the calluses, how you bend more, like 200, then the skin gets broken. And that process, that's also a type of fitness, a type of preparation for you for that endurance. Now, I want to ask you a little bit, before I ask you another question, I want to ask you a little bit about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
How has the martial arts really impacted you, even in your steel bending and in your life? Because I'm a firm believer that martial arts really give us nerves of steel. It gives us endurance. It gives us that drive, and it helps us to put our mind over the matter. How has that impacted you, for instance?
So much. So I've started jujitsu and like some no gi submission grappling about a year and a half ago. And
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful to be on the mat now because my background is wrestling. Like, so I started
Oh,
wrestling in sixth grade and then I wrestled through college. So I wrestled like 11 years of my life. And that was one of the most influential things in my whole life was wrestling because I learned
yes.
so much just about mental toughness, pushing yourself, setting
Yeah.
goals, hard work, just pushing through adversity. And it was such a huge part of my life. And then when I got out of college, there's really, unless you're like a world class wrestler, there's really no option after you get out of college to wrestle.
Oh,
So then I was off the mat and not doing any form of grappling for 20 years,
yeah,
like over 20 years, I think 22 years. And then a year and
yes,
a half ago, one of my friends who steel bends, Amir, he's really big into jujitsu. He's a brown belt. He talked me into going and checking out jujitsu, and I was just
yeah,
obsessed and right off the rip because I was back on the mat again. And
yeah.
this last year and a half has been so fun, being back on the mat. And yeah, I just love it. I did it at 6 a.m. this morning. I had jujitsu class.
Oh,
It's a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun being back on the mat.
it is a feeling that you can describe it, but you have to be there to experience it. Like there's nothing like that feeling when you step onto that mat. When you know you're going to challenge yourself, you know you're going to learn, you know, something about yourself, something about the person that you are working with, something about the art. And I want you to know that there are members in the audience that maybe do not know the difference between wrestling and jiu-jitsu. Would you like to explain to them what's the difference?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the ultimate goal. So wrestling is, grappling. There's no striking in either. But the ultimate goal in wrestling is to pin
Mm.
somebody on their back, and you hold
Yes.
them down until a couple seconds, you pin them, you get the pin. While jujitsu, the goal is really to submit somebody. So instead of trying to pin somebody down, you're choking them or breaking their arm or leg until they tap out and
Yeah.
you win by submission. And so they're
Yes.
both grappling. They're both, jujitsu, wrestling is part of jujitsu. It's just instead
That's
of
it.
trying to pin the person, you're trying to choke them or submit them.
That's the truth. And wrestling and jiu-jitsu is very closely related to MMA. So what I love about the martial arts is that it's all intertwined. You know, you do a little bit of all of it, and that is what makes us so exhilarated about the whole process. Now, you have bent so many different objects, and I've been wondering, what was the most difficult thing that you've ever bent?
Um, well, there's the two different types, the endurance and the strength. And I've been some really big bars, like braced
Yeah,
bending bars that not a lot of people have bent before, that are really thick. And those are very satisfying to me because they're just max strength. Like you're just, it's
yeah,
all about just creating power into the bar.
yeah,
Um, but I think the endurance ones are harder. It's, you got to just um, it's just that willpower, because some of these endurance feats, I've been for 4 hours straight without a break. And so like the max strength feat, that may be 3 minutes or 4 minutes of bending versus four
wow,
hours of bending. So I think
yeah,
the feats that were the hardest, the first like record that really put me on the map was bending 102 red nails. The red nail is um, it's 5/16 inch piece of cold rolled steel that's 7 inches long. And there's
yeah.
a company called Iron Mind. And like every bender's first goal is to get on the cert list for this. Like it's a big deal.
Oh, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And back in 2005, there were two benders that bent 100 of them in a row. And nobody else has done anything even close to that. Like not even anywhere close. Like that record had sat there forever. And I had read about that after I started bending, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I thought it was so awesome. And so I wanted to try this kind of endurance feat. And so on my 40th birthday, I bent 40 of them in a row. And that was like my first round, like dipping my toe into this. And I mean, I just tore myself apart, and I
Yeah.
was in so much pain. And the thought of doing the 100 like left my head. Like I didn't think
Yeah.
that was for me. Like I didn't think I'd be able to do it. But then it kept creeping up into my head again and again. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to beat this 100. And so I went and did, I think, 102 in about an hour less than what those guys did. And that was
Oh,
like the first,
gosh.
like, that was the picture where the blood's coming out of my hands. And
Oh, I
at the
wondered
end of
that.
that feat, my fingers were involuntarily twitching, and my body was like just breaking down. And
Gee.
that's probably my favorite feat ever, just because it kind of
Yeah.
put me on the map a little bit, and was one of the first times that I just had to overcome all these bends and
Yeah.
test myself to my limit.
Tell me, Don, that is incredible, by the way. I mean, to do that and to sit with that injury and to go through that pain, that is amazing, you know, that you have that willpower Now, I want to ask you, how long does it take you to recover after such a great feat of strength? How long do you take to recover? How long do you not bend for after something like that?
So one thing that's crazy and shows how amazing our bodies are is the more of these feats I do and the more I just rip my hands apart and rip my body apart, the faster my body heals. Like at the
Oh,
beginning when say I would tear my hands and they would just be really bad tears, it may take 2 weeks.
yeah.
And but now, I mean, my skin just regenerates way faster than it used to, just because my
Wow.
body expects it. It knows that it's going to get tore apart and that it has to repair itself. So I heal that type of injury a lot faster than I used to. And so after some of those big feats, my hands may take, um, you know, a week to heal before I'm bending again. But my body, in a couple days, I'll be back working out. It's definitely,
Yeah.
I'll be laid up for a couple days, but I get back to it a lot faster than I used to be able to.
That is incredible to know. The more you do it, the faster your body heals. Because it doesn't sound logical, but yet that's what it is. So I've seen you bending things in photos with your head, with your thighs, with your arms, with your hands. What's the most difficult place to use to bend something? What's the most painful place?
I mean, bending on your head for sure, because that
Head.
I don't like to do it very often. I normally when I do it, um, I do performances. Like I like to perform at for
Yeah,
schools or the Boy Scouts, or I've performed at like rock concerts or for businesses, like different sometimes motivational type speaking, and I like to do the head bend for those, but I don't normally train it too much just because it's dangerous because
yeah,
you're pulling a bar straight down on your head, which
your
all
scalp.
that force goes into your cervical spine, where
Yeah.
you could rupture a disc or fracture a vertebrae or something
Mm.
with the force you're putting in. So
Mm.
I try not to do it too often. I mainly leave that for performances, uh,
Yeah,
but
I
that's
agree.
that's the most painful and most dangerous for sure.
I can imagine. I was thinking about your neck and your spine. When you said your head, I thought, what about your neck and your spine? Have you sustained any, dangerous or, um, like difficult injuries that you've had to deal with, or was it mostly just your hands?
Yeah, just I've been real lucky with steel bending where I've never had any major injuries. Little tweaks and whatnot that I don't even really consider an injury. But then just ripping the hands up, which is kind of just part of it. It's going to happen, and so
Yeah.
I don't even really consider that an injury. It's just kind of part of the game. And but I've
Yeah.
been real lucky because steel bending is something where people do get hurt, and you
Yes.
see it a fair bit where people get into it, get real serious, and then get injured, and then you never see them bending again. And so I feel really lucky that I've been able to stay away from the injuries with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. You are super blessed. And there's a question lingering in my mind because you are strong, you're naturally strong. You have this beautiful family. Are your little girls as strong as you are?
They love being out in the gym. So I've got my garage is a gym basically. It's my steel bending gym, and that's where I do
Yeah,
most of my training. I've got wrestling mat in there too, and I've
yeah,
got all my weights and everything in there. And my girls love going out there, and they're little, like so. I've got 5, 8, and 11. They're little, but they love to go out there and wrestle on the mat or pick up weights, or they'll grab a steel bar and they will just lay into that bar.
yeah,
Forever. And my one daughter, Scarlett, she's my middle daughter.
yeah,
She is tough as nails. I think has a little bit of the, wildness inside that you need to bend steel.
yeah.
She had this steel nail that I think if you gave it to, 100 different men, there may be 100 of them that can't bend it. Like it's a hard thing, right? And so
Yeah,
I wrapped it up for her, and it was last year, so she was 7 years old, and she didn't bend it, but she was trying to bend it. And
yeah.
I was just working out in the gym while she was trying to bend it. And she was going into this bar 120%, like just, I mean,
Wow.
straining and going crazy on this bar for 45 minutes. And I'm just working out, kind of watching her, encouraging her a little bit. And finally I saw her look down at her hand, and I looked down at it, and she was starting to get blisters on her hand. And I'm like,
Oh,
Scarlett, you gotta put this down. This isn't gonna be good. You're gonna hurt yourself. And she didn't want to quit. She was 100% convinced and believed in herself that she was going to bend that steel bar. And I 100% believe that she's going to bend it one of these days because
yeah,
her self belief was so great that
yeah.
she wouldn't quit. And I had to finally get her to
Amazing.
stop so she didn't just tear herself apart. But she had that
Wow.
fire and that tenacity in her that I loved seeing.
Give her time, Don. Give her time. She's gonna grow up. She has all the qualities. Of someone that would be capable of doing that. That mindset. Give her time.
Yeah,
When
she'll be a
she's
force
older, she's gonna show the world.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit about your world records
Okay.
because you've done a lot out there. Tell us about the world records and all that entailed.
Yeah, so I've got I think 20 world records that I've broken at different points in times,
Wow.
and the 102 red nails was one of them. The 831 60 penny nails. That one's very special in my heart too because
Yeah.
um, kind of the history. Well, actually, a 60 penny nail is a 6-inch nail, and
Yeah.
it's the most classic feat of strength for strong men.
Oh.
It's kind of like once you can bend a 60 penny nail, you get the fist bump from strong men, and you're
Okay.
you're kind of into the world. And so there's one guy named John Brookfield who's one of the strongest people to ever live. He's amazing, and he in the early 2000s, I want to say maybe 2001 or something, he bent a 50-pound box of the 60 penny nails, and that's how
Oh,
that's how like
goodness.
construction sites or whatever would buy him in a 50
Yeah.
box. And he did it on 3 different occasions, and nobody else had ever done it. And it was kind of like the 100 red nails where I saw that and I wanted to duplicate it. And I
Yeah.
contacted John. He was nice enough to talk with me. He gave me all the details. His box had like 525 nails in it. And so I set
Yes.
about making it a goal to bend a full box.
Yeah.
And so I bent the full box, and it was 575 in it, which was recognized as a world record for the most ever bent. And then
Wow.
my friend Bud Jeffries, his son unfortunately died as a young man, and he set up a foundation in his name. And he had
Wow.
during COVID in 2020, his big
Mm.
fundraiser that he had every year couldn't go that year because of COVID. And so we
Oh.
did a virtual telethon where strongmen
Oh.
from around the world bent steel and did different feats to help raise money for Bud's his charity, Noah's Army. His son's name was Noah.
Yeah.
And so for Noah's Army, I bent 725 of these nails to beat my
Oh.
old record of 575.
Yeah.
And then the next year, one of my good friends that I wrestled with in college, Scott Smith, he got ALS, and it just
Oh.
demolished his body, and it was terrible. And so
Yeah.
him and I worked together, and he set me up with this ALS charity that raises money to do research to beat ALS. Um, and we started Nails and Nails for ALS. And then I broke
Mm.
725 by bending 831 nails at our ALS fundraiser. So that's my personal
Fantastic.
favorite record, just because it was done. It has lots of different steps to it. It starts with John Brookfield, the legendary strongman, goes
Yeah.
to Bud Jeffries and his son, Noah's Army. Then it goes to my friend Scott Smith and Nails and Nails for ALS. So that record I've broken a couple times, and it has a lot of meaning to me for sure.
Absolutely. And now I'm also wondering, do you only bend steel? Or are there other things that you've also torn? And I know you mentioned the deck of cards. What else have you broken or torn or bent?
Yeah, so I can tear cards, tear phone books, roll up frying pans,
Oh,
drive
gosh.
nails through boards. Trying to think of what else there is. Any of the standard feats like that. No, I do.
Yeah,
With bending, we'll bend hammers and wrenches and pry bars and different tools and stuff.
yeah. Very interesting. I've seen some of these strong men take a warm water bottle and blow it up, and I've seen them tear the phone books, those thick phone books, and I always think to myself, how on earth do they get to do that? There must be it. You have to be naturally strong. I know that you train and you practice and you enhance, but it has to be an inherent thing, I believe, because that's not normal. It's not normal in a good way.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not normal, but I don't believe that you have to be naturally strong. I really don't. I feel like if somebody, just like we were talking about with lifting the car, the grandmother, if you really want to do it, I don't think it matters
Adrenaline.
where you come from. I mean, obviously, some people are going to be more inclined to it, but if
Yeah,
you set it as a goal, I think most people
you do it.
will get to that phone book.
Mm.
There's
Yeah.
certain things that bench pressing 500 pounds or whatever. Not everyone's going to be able to get to that. There's certain things
Yes.
that you
Yes.
do have to have real natural aptitude and whatnot. But for a phone book, like I think people can, if you put your mind to it and believe in
Practice.
yourself and practice and trained, I think you can get to it. The funny thing about the phone book is the hardest thing about ripping a phone book is finding a phone book. Like now, there's phone books are like a thing of the past. Like if you bring
That's
a phone
funny.
book to an elementary school and rip it for them, they don't even know what that book is. They've never
Oh
seen
my
or heard of one in their life. It's like an
gosh.
ancient thing to kids now.
The world has changed, Don. The world has changed.
It
That
has.
is super funny, but that's true. I agree with you. Everything has changed. We don't know where to find a phone book anymore. Everything's electronic now.
Yeah.
Now, you're not only a strong man and a wonderful family man, you also have a profession. Tell us a little bit more about being a lawyer.
Yeah, I'm a trial lawyer. I help people that have been, severely injured, and
Yeah,
most of my clients are in really tough, bad spots in their life, and I
yeah,
feel pretty grateful and lucky to have the job I do, where I get to help these people that really don't have anyone else to go to, and I get to step in
yeah.
and help them out. So I feel pretty lucky about my
That's
job and,
good.
and what I get to do every day.
That's amazing. You have a heart for people. You want to help, and it takes a lot of courage to do so as well. You've trained to do that. You've studied to do that. And here at Meticulous, we talk a lot about leadership as well. We talk a lot about gratitude because that's the source of our energy that keeps us in that high performance mentality, in that state. And especially when I speak to athletes and pros, like yourself, you've broken so many world records. That energy that you keep up, that level that you maintain. And we also talk about community upliftment. So I want to ask you about leadership. As we grow up, sometimes we have coaches, sometimes we have this leader that's an exceptional example to us that really instill these values in us. Sometimes we have a mentor only when we leave school and college. What was leadership like for you? Was there a certain person that really invested in you, that showed you the ropes around leadership?
Yeah, I think my college wrestling coach, Coach David Shooter at Truman State University of Missouri, he
Yeah.
man, Coach Shooter was great. That man would do anything for his athletes. Like we
Wow.
always talk about it, me and the guys I wrestle with now. Like if I got on the phone right now and called Coach Shooter up and told him I was stranded in Michigan, and even though he lives in Missouri, Coach, no questions asked, would get in his car
Really?
and drive here and help me. Like that guy would do anything. If you invested in him and put in
Yeah.
the hard work for him, he would do anything for you. And
Wow.
I think that's a big part of leadership is,
Yeah.
being selfless like that and helping the people that, are there with you. And he taught me so many values and, just a lot of the hard work and mental toughness things I learned from him.
Yeah.
He's by far the toughest person I've ever known.
Absolutely, we have, we are so blessed to have leaders like that in our lives because it's not often that they cross our paths. So it's amazing to hear, that you have this bond and that he really is there for you in any circumstance. Now, before we go to gratitude, let's talk a little bit about community upliftment because I believe that you promote the sport of steel bending. How does that work and how does that impact the community at large? Because it's very effective.
Yeah. So I promote in the sense that I host a competition. Like steel
Yeah.
bending is something that's spread out. Like it's not people are kind of spread out all over the world, and
Yeah.
you got to be a certain type of person to get into it. Like
Mm.
you got to not mind pain for one because it's a very
Yes.
painful endeavor,
Yeah.
and it's it's just a tough thing to do. And so it takes a very certain type of person to do it. So steel benders are kind of spread out. And I host this competition in Michigan every year, the Michigan Steel Bending and Breaking Championship. And people will come from, all over the US, different places to come to this event. And it's, the last 5 years, it's been the only in-person. Well, there was one competition in North Carolina last year, but besides that, it's been the only in-person steel bending competition in the United States. And so it's a chance it is a competition where we're competing, but to me, even more so, it's a chance for all the steel benders to get together, be under one roof, meet each other face to face versus just, online and everything.
Yeah.
And, tell stories and bend together and, try to set personal records and just get together. And so I think that that event is a good part of the steel bending community. And then other than that, I try to encourage people. I'll post my bends and stuff online, and videos, so people see what I'm doing. And any new benders or anyone else, I try to encourage people and give them any tips or anything I've learned from over the years, and mainly just make sure they're going in the right direction and encourage them.
All of that is edification. All of that is community, upliftment, bringing people together, really networking, and putting. There's a lot of things out there that we can be a part of. I'm happy to hear that there are people out there that are still into steel bending and that it's growing in interest. That's very interesting. I think it's important, especially when it brings people together. For me, community is very, very important. Even if it's sport that brings us together, if it's business, if it's other projects, it's always good to have people gather together and to share and do that networking. Now, I want to ask you, Don, what are you grateful for today? I love to ask that because, every day is special and we have so many things to be thankful for. What are you grateful for in this moment?
Honestly, I'm really grateful for everything. Like you said, every day is different and special. I'm grateful for every day. It, my mom died when I was 11 years old. She was 33 and got cancer and died. So I learned when I was young that you're not guaranteed, another day. You never, you're not guaranteed a long life or anything else. And I see it in my job too. I see all the time people's lives end early or they get significantly impacted physically or they're changed. And so I'm grateful for every day and just my family and every opportunity I have, because I think you have to be grateful because you're not guaranteed anything.
That's it. That's it. We never know how much time we have here. And coincidentally, my mom died in 2020 from not COVID, stage 4 brain cancer that they detected late. And she was only 65. So I can relate totally with you. We don't know. So every day is a gift, every day is a blessing. I'll never forget, before she passed, she said, Juanita, you got to start living with intention. She said, I had so many places I wanted to go, people to meet, things I wanted to do. She said, I'm never going to have that chance. She said, you better get back home and you better live with intention. And I agree with you. We don't know how much time we have. So I'm grateful with you for this beautiful day, a chance to make the world a better place. And I want to ask you, any words of wisdom? What do you want to leave the audience with? Because, we've been chatting away for almost 40 minutes, 45 minutes. The time has just flown. What would you like to leave the audience with? Any words of wisdom?
Yeah, I would just say, don't limit yourself or let other people limit you. If there's something you want to do or something that's important to you, just go for it. What do you have to lose? I mean, say it doesn't work out. The whole journey along the way, you'll have learned so much and be so much better than you were beforehand. And so I would say just, there's something you want to do, set big goals and work hard because you have to work your tail off. There's no getting around hard work. That's everything's got to have underlying hard work if you want to do something cool or outstanding. But yeah, just believe in yourself. And if something's there, just go for it. Everyone's got a lot of untapped potential in them, and don't let anyone hold you back, and just go for it and see what you can do.
I agree with you completely, absolutely 100%. Now, you mentioned that you're going to go into a competition soon. Tell us more about that so that we can be ready to cheer you on.
Yeah, so it's the Nails and Nails for ALS 3 event. That's July 22nd. And that's another fundraiser where I'm going to be raising money to hopefully beat ALS. Unfortunately, ALS took my friend's life earlier this year. And so, he had a wife and 2 kids, and it took him early too. And so we're going to go out and try to break this record and, have awareness about this nasty disease and raise some money to, hopefully find a cure, so we can put this thing in its place.
Absolutely, absolutely. God is with you. He's going to make the way straight for you. And we'll be cheering you on. Are you going to post it on your timeline? How do we follow you for that?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. I post everything on Instagram. I'm at Don Cummings Steel Bending, all one word on Instagram. And I'm on Facebook too, but I'll be posting a lot about it. They're getting the site webpage put up, and as soon as it's up, I'll post it. But I'm going to try to bend a couple hundred horseshoes and, again, just go all out, huge endurance feed, and, just try to really push my boundaries and hopefully raise a lot of money.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Don, for making the time, just for investing into our lives and for helping us learn more about this wonderful sport and the things that you are busy with. We appreciate you. We're definitely going to cheer you on, and we'll have you back for another session soon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on, and keep up your good work. These podcasts are great.
Thank you, Don. I'll see you soon. Have a great, great evening. Goodbye.
See ya.
To the Meticulous Moments audience, thank you so much for joining us for yet another amazing session with a phenomenal guest. We'll be back in the next session. See you soon.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're the #1 fastest growing community and tribe of some of the highest level entrepreneurs all around the country and around the world. We're in 36 states across the U.S., in 11 international countries, and over 240 plus members growing every single day. And I'm honored, excited, and I'm glad to say that I'm proud to be the official sponsor of the Meticulous Moments podcast with Juanita Kapp. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm excited for this journey.
Hey everybody, my name is Patrick Rude. I'm the owner of Rude Financial Services, a proud sponsor of the Meticulous Moments podcast, hosted and directed by the beautiful, strong, and intelligent Juanita Kapp. I cannot tell you enough about what this woman has done with this podcast and the effect that she has had on me and all of the other sponsors and people that listen. Don't miss it.